I love horror games. They're just the best. The tension, the atmosphere, it's just the perfect immersive experience. Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Evil Within, all-time favorites. And just super cozy. I genuinely find great comfort with horror titles, even if they're anxiety-inducing. It's a good kind of anxiety, you know? I find joy in replaying my favorite horror games. But then there's Outlast. Screw this game. This is one of the only games where I straight up don't like playing it. What's crazy is I only played this game for the first time a year ago. I even played through Outlast 2, maybe even 2 times at that point before. Now that game is even worse, and is definitely the scariest game ever made to me. It took me so long to play the first game myself, because I had seen many a playthrough of it on YouTube. I knew the game inside and out, so it was one of those cases where it felt like there wasn't a point to actually playing it, especially given how linear and straightforward the gameplay is. Fortunately, these games are always on sale for dirt cheap, so I eventually said why not and decided to give it a shot. Now, while I know that I wouldn't find this game nearly as scary as Outlast 2, and I knew the game so well from watching it on YouTube, I was still surprised to find out that this game is just insanely scary anyways. And no, it wasn't the jump scares, I had memorized every one. No, it wasn't the hide and seek or chase gameplay. I locked in during those segments and turned in a pretty good performance. It was the moments where literally nothing was happening and I knew nothing was gonna happen that got to me. Simply existing in this decrepit squalor gave me a constant feeling of unsettlement, and I genuinely despised being in this asylum. This game is just completely harrowing start to finish and is genuinely exhausting to play. Thankfully, the game is quite short, and on my first playthrough I was able to get by in just 2 sittings, but for some reason on my second playthrough just now, I could not bear to play for any more than an hour or 2 at a time, and went days without playing at all. This game is just all around unpleasant, and that's a great compliment to the team at Red Barrels for creating this experience. It's hard to believe that this is actually an indie game. It looks so damn good. The small team was comprised of people who previously worked on the AAA scene, so they knew what they were doing. What makes this game stand out from a lot of other indie games is the top-tier production, the relentless, over-the-top graphic nature, and the night vision camera style that has become quite iconic. I also want to give a shout out to the composer, Samuel LaFlame. This game, and especially the second, have no joke the scariest horror soundtracks ever made in my opinion. I'd say the game loses 60% of its oppressive effect without the music. It is incredibly intense, and some tracks get under my skin like nothing ever has. And there's also the occasional piece that is genuinely very beautiful and nice, separated from the horrifying context. Now, it's not to say that this is a masterpiece or anything. The game definitely has some pacing problems and becomes quite repetitive in its level design. The second half of the game isn't anything to write home about. For such a short game, it feels super long to play, and I want nothing more for the game to end. On one hand, that's a positive to the oppressive atmosphere, but on the other it means that after a while the game stops doing anything too interesting. We start off as reporter Miles Upshur, who gets a sketchy email from a whistleblower about how the Murkoff Corporation is doing some shady stuff at the asylum. Like an idiot, Miles decides it's a good idea to go to the abandoned asylum with just a camera and no flashlight or any type of weapon. Miles is a weird protagonist because you only get anything out of him from the notes or the occasional exclamation of intense pain. In the notes, Miles is kind of a sassy little guy with a lot of attitude. It can be jarring at times to see some of the stuff that this guy decides to write down in the middle of this hellish situation. Alright, so immediately this game gets right the most important thing for a horror game to have: atmosphere. Just sink in this opening bit. This is already way too intense right now. So haunting. Clearly some shit has gone down at this place, and it doesn't seem as abandoned as we were led to believe. There are weird military vehicles pulled up outside of the main entrance, which we can't access. So we make our way up and around. As soon as we climb in, we have to use our night vision, and I mean, just damn. Look how fucking freaky this is.
You got me.
So right here we see that there's fucking blood everywhere, And Miles just doesn't think anything is wrong. Alright then. We get our first document, which are these wordy ass pages that barely tell us anything of real meaning. Especially with how the game ends, these documents and the story in general leave a lot to be desired. I mean, right here with just this first document and the footage Miles has of the condition of this place should be enough to get him the fucking Pulitzer Prize or whatever the fuck he's after, but no, let's keep going. Going through, it becomes clear that
we're not alone here.
At least the lighting here is pretty cozy. I could get...
You got me.
This fucking music, dude. This is unhinged. Wait, how is that guy screaming if he doesn't even have a head?
They killed us. They got out. The variants.
So now we get dead bodies and this Murkoff guy telling us a bit about what went down. But yet Miles still won't go back. I mean, if you do backtrack, the door will be locked, but it's some wooden door. Anyone would bash that thing down instead of pushing further into the facility. But anyways, then this fucking guy shows up.
Little pig.
And then this fucking guy shows up.
And who are you, then? I see. Merciful God, you have sent me an apostle. Guard your life, son. You have a calling.
I do love the music that plays whenever Father Martin shows up. There's something oddly calming about it. This right here is the only cozy area in the whole game. It's giving Resident Evil 2 front hall vibes. Yo, this guy falling down the elevator shaft is a top tier gag. This game does have some charm to it besides the horror. As we learned from the Murkoff guy, we need to get into security control, but we need a keycard for that. We shimmy past this creepy guy in a wheelchair and walk into a room of these spaced out guys just chilling, watching the white noise on the television. I love how not every one of these inmates are malicious. Some leave you alone and some even talk to you a bit. We get the keycard and now we can...
You got me.
A lot of the jump scares are pretty obvious, but some scares are quite clever. Like this one, where you walk into a room and then someone just slams the door shut. Gave me quite the startle.
We didn't choose this. Why should we have to pay for it? Why do we have to die? Walker will kill us just for being sick. We're still people. We didn't choose this.
We enter the security office to open the main doors, but then randomly we see Father Martin shut down the power. What an asshole. Then Big Boy shows up back again and we hide.
Bruh.
We learned from a document that this guy is named Chris Walker. We also have been learning about something called the Walrider Project and the morphogenic engine, and how the presumed dead Dr. Wernicke has something to do with it. We head to the basement, and I really like this segment here where it's pitch black and we have to activate these 3 switches to restore power. Meanwhile, this random guy is patrolling the area. It is so intense, being under a bed and watching an enemy walk around close. Although it does become clear that enemies will never check the hiding place that you're in if they didn't already see you go in, which removes some of the tension. After restoring power, we head back up but are once again thwarted by Martin. He shows us a security recording of Murkoff soldiers being massacred by some ghostly presence, this being the Wall Rider. We awaken in a cell block full of crazed inmates. Yo, I love the dialogue from these guys. Sometimes I'll just randomly have this dialogue pop up in my head. Some of the line delivery is so funny to me.
Get back! Get the fuck away from me!
And you know what? This area is fairly cozy too. I feel strangely safe here. These two guys are pretty intense. They're followers of Martin, however they're a bit unhinged and want to chop us up anyway. I really like this segment here because we just run into a whole bunch of different people and we get a sense of how crazy this place really is.
You look like you've seen a ghost.
Don't trust them. They'll tell you it's science, but it's not. They were waiting for us in this place. Billy understood. They've always been here.
Even if the story isn't all that by the end, there are some really chilling moments like this that make you really interested in the lore. This guy's iconic.
Drain. The blood. All the way out is down. Down the drain. Down the drain. Down the drain. Down the drain. Drain. Down the drain.
They weren't experiments. They were rituals. A conjuring.
We eventually make an encounter with the twins. I really like this part here because they come from both sides and it's really fucking scary. We hop out of the window and the dialogue here is really great and it shows some personality of the twins. And they just disappear and vanish like ghosts.
My God, he vanished without a trace. I detect sarcasm. It wasn't my intention. He thinks we're assholes. Oh, stupid. Let's pull him in and slit his belly open.
It's so creepy. Then we have to find our way out of the shower area and we have an encounter with Chris Walker, who is pretty intense and is still chasing us down. He goes around tearing people's heads off, and you get the sense that he's trying to contain whatever outbreak happened here. He was part of Murkoff's security before, as we learn in the comic, the Murkoff account. And then he got exposed to the dream therapy and morphogenic engine, and all that stuff is really cool. It's like Black Project, CIA, MK Ultra experiments. The whole dream therapy thing is very fascinating. I wish we went into it a little bit more or got a better understanding of how it even works. Though the little details that we do get are very intriguing and fascinating. We get blasted down a floor and we get into the sewers, which are really not all that interesting. We just have to find our way out of here while Chris Walker is chasing us down yet again. He is really scary, and the way he breathes so intensely and the way the chains rattle, it's really great sound design. And it makes you tense up so much when he's running behind you. I will say he's a bit overused in this game, and they maybe should have made up some more pursuer characters to make things more interesting. And of course, the sewers are never very interesting in any game. That being said, the atmosphere here is still top notch and had me unsettled the whole time. I love this little bit here where we get Father Martin and we see his little flashlight in the distance and hear him humming. I think it's really cool and gives you a weird sense of comfort knowing his presence is around, since he's one of the only few people who communicates with us. I love this little conversation we have with this one guy. I mean, it's not really a conversation, he's the only one talking, and I find it interesting that Miles just doesn't speak at all. In Outlast 2, Blake, the protagonist, speaks, but he only interacts with like one NPC the entire game, which is interesting. Other than that, he's just talking to himself. While in this game, a lot of the NPCs talk to Miles, but he says nothing back. Now we get into what is without a doubt the best part of the entire game. I don't even know where we are right now, but it's not looking good. People are messed up in here. I love this room of all of these beds that are covered up with these sheets, and you can just hear people in pain. It's so eerie. We find this document of this unhinged doctor. This document is a harsh contrast to the boring language that we've been finding in a lot of the other documents. This is more of a personal note from someone, and we can tell that they are a bit insane. Just a bit. Then we get the chase. The music is so intense as people are just coming in after us. We have to close the doors and barricade them to slow them down. Now that I'm looking at it, there aren't as many high intensity chase sequences as I thought. Those are more in the second game, actually. But it's still so intense here, just running at full speed with these guys right on your tail. Just having to quickly figure out where to go, it's so insane. I love the little fake out that happens here where you think the chase is over, and then 2 seconds later the music just picks back up. I actually find it kind of funny the way the violins just appear. We head into a bit of a dead end, but we hear someone over the intercom telling us to get into the dumbwaiter. And then we meet this fucking guy.
You're the right choice here, buddy.
Rick Trager, an absolute menace. He straps us into a chair and wheels us down the hall. I love the little drunk effect here, and the music just sells the atmosphere so much.
You know, I love the mountain air up here at night. You want to head out and take a stroll? Go ahead, I'll wait here. Go on, run free. I'm in no hurry. No? All right. Nose to the grindstone, I like that. Okay then, right this way.
Trager is just tantalizing us the entire time as we get moved down a floor. And we see all these patients strapped up to these beds, all mutilated and stuff.
Here we are then. Thanks so much for coming by. We'll begin your consultation in a moment. It'll just need a second to wash up and, movies. And it'll give us a chance to talk.
We get wheeled into some dirty bathroom. It looks like Saw in here. This is definitely the most intense scene in the game. We just get Trager going off on this random monologue about faith and religion and money because he used to be an accountant here at Murkoff before he got the treatment. It's such a great little monologue because it almost makes sense, but then he just throws in some random stuff that really just throws you off. And like, what is he even saying right now? It's so scary because there's nothing you can do right here. Miles is completely at the mercy of this unhinged individual.
You have to rob Paul to pay Peter. There's no other way. Murder is the simplest form, but what happens when all money's gone? Well, money becomes a matter of faith. And that's what I'm here for. To make you believe.
He cuts off 2 of our fingers. So insane. After he leaves, we are able to escape the chair and we walk around a little bit and we run into this other guy who used to be an executive here. And he talks to us a little bit about Trager, who we can also learn more about in that comic, which you should totally read because it's really good and you'll need to know some of that stuff for Outlast 2. Trager comes in and messes up the guy and we're in it now. What's so scary about Trager is the fact that he's just some normal guy who's talking to himself and talking out loud, talking to us. It feels like he actually has some motivation other than just being some hulking beast.
Buddy!
has to win and somebody has to lose here. I don't make the rules.
Holy shit, I mean, that was so scary. Every time he sees us, he calls out to us, and it's so frightened to be called out by this intelligent figure. We loop around this place while he's in search of us, and we eventually find a key to the elevator that we need to get out of here.
Aren't you a slippery little fucker?
We get to it, but then Trager is still trying to get to us. He's stopping at nothing to have us in his possession. For once in his life, Miles actually decides to fight back a little bit, and he ends up pinning Trager against the elevator as it's closing in. It is such a relief to have actually done something about one of the pursuers, and especially Trager here, who has caused us so much pain in such a short amount of time. We run into Father Martin once again, and he tells us to meet him in the courtyard. Now we're getting into the last half of the game, and this is definitely where things kind of fall apart for the game. It kind of just repeats itself over and over, not really doing anything too interesting. Things get a lot more dark from a lighting perspective, and you'll have to use night vision a lot more. The game is definitely still scary though, that never changes. But you're still just being followed by Chris Walker a lot, and some of the encounters and the objectives are really boring and feel pretty repetitive. So here we run into the kitchen where it's all on fire. And it's really cool that this inmate here just sets the place ablaze. And I really like the sympathetic monologue we get here. I really do feel bad for a lot of these inmates. There's only really a select few that are trying to kill us. The others are just out of their minds, alone and confused. But it's kind of stupid here that he tells us to get out through the kitchen, but we literally can't because it's blocked by the flame. So we have to do this whole thing to turn on the water, to put the fire out, and again we're being chased by Chris, and it's not all that interesting of an objective. And what's kind of frustrating about some of the encounters in this game, especially during this latter half, is just there's not a lot of space to work with. You're kind of always being funneled into this small area. We're almost guaranteed to run into the enemy. It's pretty hard to hide from them. There's not a lot of breathing room to be smart and take a different route or go around. The level design does get a lot better in the second game. Anyway, after putting out the fire, the guy gets all pissed off and gives us the mother of all jump scares, and we finally make our way into the courtyard. This is a really cool and interesting part though, because we're now outside and it's all raining and stuff, and we can barely see anything, even with the night vision. But again, look who shows back up, Chris Walker. He's starting to get really annoying now, which is not really what you want in a horror game. Some of the atmosphere here is absolutely insane. I mean, look at some of this stuff. This is some Silent Hill levels of atmosphere. I wish the game varied things up more like this, because the asylum location does start to get pretty old after a while. After making our way through, we run into none other than the Wall Rider, this thing we've been hearing about this entire time, this ghost, this paranormal entity, and seeing it for the first time is quite a scare. Introducing a supernatural element like this throws things off balance. I mean, you already got the hint that it was there, but it definitely makes things a little bit more scary. After this courtyard segment, we have this awful segment, honestly, where you have to make your way up some floors, but we need some keys and stuff, which is really stupid in context because Father Martin just went through this area.
This way! Revelation is at hand!
He's guiding us on the way, but like, why did he lock the doors behind him? This makes no sense. Like, I mean, how did he get up there? I mean, are we not following the same path as him? Anyways, we have to get this key from this laundry chute. We have to gather 3 fuses, and again, the level design here is so linear that it feels like you always have to get into a chase and loop around this guy. And once we do get the fuses, the key just falls down the chute and we have to go down a floor again. It's kind of just an annoying segment. But anyways, we finally make it up to the upper floors. We try and parkour, but then we lose our camera, which is definitely a suspenseful moment, except that it only lasts for about a minute before you find it again. And there's no real danger whatsoever in this part, so it's kind of a missed opportunity, I think. I do really like this scare of when you go to pick up the camera because you're expecting something to be right in front of you, but it's only when you turn around that something pops up.
Only one way out. Only one way.
There is one way out.
How do you know you're not impatient?
Now we loop around to where we kind of were at the start of the game, the kind of main lobby area, which I think is a really cool full circle moment. And I really like this next segment of the game actually because it has a lot of story context here as we finally are about to meet back up with Father Martin. He has this whole setup for us, and we go to this little theater area and we see this interview of Dr. Warnicki explaining some of the stuff about the morphogenic engine. I really like the tone of this video here. The imagery is really cool, and I really like the voice acting here.
It's impossible to understand the things we felt, what we believed. The overwhelming fear, ecstatic rage, and English words are insufficient.
And the dialogue is super interesting, and it cuts off at a really chilling point and leaves you really wanting to know more about the whole experiment.
Do you believe your test subjects achieved something supernatural?
No,
Do you think that they contacted something supernatural?
nothing is supernatural.
Then what was it? You said Project Wallrider was a gateway. A gateway to what?
On our way to Father Martin, we see that there are all these guys praying and stuff. It really seems like there's a whole event that Martin has orchestrated here. And it's called the Gospel of Sand, which is a really cool name. And it's a cool idea of these people who have decided to worship the Wallrider. We finally catch up with Father Martin, and he's crucified himself on this cross and is ready to be burnt, which is insane. He calls us the witness, the messenger, meant to record his death. He's absolutely out of his mind, but this is such a chilling moment. This might actually be my favorite little scene in the game. The music is incredible, it's so haunting. I love the way all these guys are positioned around him, praying and stuff. And then him just going up into flames, it's so disturbing. His screams, everything's so haunting. We finally get the key to the main elevator so that we can get back to the lobby area and leave through the main doors like we were trying to do all that time ago. But for some reason, which I do think is a little weird, we kind of go in the elevator and it just goes all the way to the lower floors. Like, did Miles hit the wrong button or something? I don't really understand. Did Martin rig it so that Miles would be witness to the Murkoff laboratories and stuff? And what's stopping Miles from just hitting the elevator again and going back to the main floor? It's kind of stupid. There probably should have been a better structured way for Miles to end up at the lab. But anyways, here we are at the Murkoff laboratory. This is very Resident Evil, of course, with this underground lab, and I really love the visual style of it. Such a different vibe from what we've been experiencing from the asylum. And I love the juxtaposition of all the blood and gore with a very clean, sterile lab environment. We run into the wall rider again, and we're trying to escape, but then we run into Chris Walker. How the hell does this guy always know where we are? And how the fuck did he get here? Did he take the elevator? How did he even fit? I don't understand this. But anyway, the wall rider comes in and grinds him into paste with the vent. That's gnarly to see the pursuer that's been chasing us the entire game just be destroyed by this supernatural entity. It's pretty cool. Then we run into none other than Dr. Wernicke. Finally, we actually get to meet him. And he goes on this big exposition dump, which I have mixed feelings about. Some of the stuff that he talks about is really interesting, but the fact that the wall rider is actually just nanomachines is kind of disappointing. It would have been much cooler if it was actually a supernatural entity that the patients made contact with, but even still, this kind of science-y dream therapy stuff, getting these people to be at such an extreme mental state in order to connect with these nanofactories and control the wall rider is still pretty cool. But the supernatural element with the dreams and everything I thought would have been a much cooler idea. Also, a problem with this part is it feels like the game is expecting you to know all of these story elements from the documents, which most people are just not going to know that much about. They're not going to know who Billy is or why he's so important or anything. Even I don't really fully understand it because it's not very well set up. But anyways, this Billy kid who's been experimented on with the morphogenic engine system is the key to the whole thing because he's turned into the main host of the wall rider. So if we kill him, we stop the wall rider. It's also kind of weird because what is even Miles' motivation here at this point? I feel like he should just still be trying to do anything to just leave. But now he feels like he's just committed to this cause of stopping the wall rider. And it's interesting to know that for the last part and the last half of this game, he's been going insane. And we get the vibe that he's been influenced by the morphogenic engine system as well. Now how that happened, I don't really know, but we can tell from the notes that he's been writing that he's been going insane, like everyone else. I really wish the story aspect of this game was a lot stronger because a lot of these concepts are really interesting. This last part of the game is also the least scary, not only because of the aesthetic changes, but also the wall rider just isn't very scary. These last few objectives are really annoying actually, but anyways, we finally end up killing Billy, but then the wall rider enters us, which is pretty freaky. Miles is all messed up, and we try and leave, but we run into Wernicke and a bunch of soldiers, and they just start shooting at us. And now Miles is the one who has taken control of the wall rider now, which is interesting. It's kind of a cool ending, but also pretty abrupt and also kind of disappointing, honestly.
Jesus God, what is that
At least the music here is pretty epic. The credits are really short. This is a really small team that made this game. How high quality all these elements are, even though some elements leave a lot to be desired. Overall, this is a good game, but it really staggers in its last half with some repetitive encounters and level design. The game's atmosphere is strong throughout, and that is always maintained, as well as the scare factor. The storyline is also definitely not presented in the best way possible, and they could have done a lot more with Miles as the protagonist. This is improved upon with Waylon Park and Blake Langerman in Whistleblower and Outlast 2. Also, Chris Walker is way overused as a pursuer enemy, and they really should have made up more characters other than him and Trager. But again, this is fixed with Whistleblower, as that game has 3 pursuer characters, and then there's even more in Outlast 2. This game does rely a lot on jump scares, of course, which are really cheap, but I don't really mind them all that much. They always give you a good little startle, and I like that feeling. But definitely with Outlast 2, they rely on it a lot less. And again, the music here is top notch. It's so horrifying and adds so much to the experience. The graphics are incredible and everything is so visceral and haunting. But again, on the gameplay side of things, there's just not enough here, even for as short of a game as it is. So yeah, overall it is a good game, but not that great, I would say. The Whistleblower expansion is almost as long as this game, and it's definitely better overall. So we'll take a look at that next, but yeah, this is still definitely one of the scariest games ever made.